Nigeria's public debt has been under scrutiny for the rate of growth, debt service to revenue ratio, and how it is utilized, thus making the growing debt profile an object of discourse and concern for stakeholders in recent times. Well, joining us for more on this is David Adori, Vice Chairman, High Cap Securities. He joins us via the telephone. Good to have you join us today, David.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everybody. Happy to be with you.
Same here. Now, taking a cue from Ghana, its borrowing brought about an expansion in the economy, and that was before the ugly incident that we saw, happen to that country. But then in Nigeria, with huge borrowing, the economy contracted, instead of expanding, and this is coupled with a high cost of debt servicing to the detriment of capital projects and other factors that are expected to drive economic growth. Now, what is it, or what was it that Nigeria didn't do right? Because if Ghana was borrowing and we're seeing expansion in its economy, but at the point where Nigeria kept borrowing and borrowing, there was no expansion. Rather, we were seeing contraction. Of course, we know the Ghana story now. That's not the focus. But looking at the expansion and the contrast we have here in Nigeria, what exactly is responsible for that?
Sorry, I would like you to repeat that question because the line was not very clear.
All right, I'll take it again. So taking a cue from Ghana, we saw that
the economy is contracting. Then you said something about Nigeria. Can you repeat it, please? All
right, this was what I said. I talked about Ghana. I said before the unfortunate, incident in Ghana now, we knew that while Ghana was borrowing, its economy was expanding. But then looking at Nigeria kept borrowing, but rather than having an expansion in the economy, we're seeing a contraction. And so the question is, what's responsible for that? Why was it that while we were borrowing, we kept seeing contraction rather than expansion?
Okay, the fundamentals of economies are different. Two economies may not have the same foundational structure, and so economic policies taken may be similar, but the outcomes may be different. So generally, when you are embarking on an expansionary fiscal policy, you are expected to borrow because you are running a budget deficit so as to increase the aggregate demand in the economy. Okay? But that is possible. You can expand if you have idle capacity that will eventually be utilized. But if you have an economy like Nigeria that does not have the foundation for production and is lacking in what we call excess capacity or idle capacity that will be utilized, even if you borrow, what that will result in is that it will increase the demand, it will put an excess demand on labor amidst the fact that there is no idle capacity. So that will fuel inflation. So that is the difference between the situation in Ghana and in Nigeria. But having said that, there was a little expansion too in Nigeria, because if you look at what happened, Nigeria suffered a recession in 2016, and it was a result of the expansionary monetary and fiscal policies that were characterized by excessive borrowing that eventually increased the aggregate demand and moved the economy out of recession. But it was unable to deal with inflation because there was no idle capacity, and so most of the borrowed funds did not have the areas to activate, and hence they exacerbated inflation in Nigeria. So that is the crisis that Nigeria is facing now, because we have, even as we speak now, the fiscal policy is still expansionary, and inflation is ravaging the economy. So this would exacerbate the inflation. In fact, macroeconomic policies in Nigeria are in disarray right now, because while monetary policy is contractionary, fiscal policy is overtly expansionary. So therefore causing a serious mismatch and sending the economy into a state of total disarray.
All right. Well, still looking at this issue now, some analysts have posited that Nigeria's low revenue generation was further compounded by her dependence on crude oil. And according to them, this resulted in budget deficits over the past decades. Now, to get things right, moving forward, what must be done?
Okay, the main challenge is actually the structure of the Nigerian economy. The reliance on crude oil is a challenge, but it's not the total or the major challenge that is stifling the Nigerian economy. At the root of the challenge is the capacity of the economy to be internally self-regenerating, to be self-reliant. The Nigerian economy does not have the capacity to produce any capital goods. And so as a result of which all capital goods, I'm talking of machinery and equipment, to be used in building production facilities as well as mechanizing agriculture are all imported. And so if Nigeria is relying solely on crude oil production for the supply of the hard currency with which to import capital goods, of course there will be a logjam because the quantity of hard currency that the crude oil sales alone can generate will not be sufficient to import so many machinery and equipment to build industries, to mechanize agriculture. And so that is why if Nigeria wants to build a refinery, Nigeria must import all the capital goods. If Nigeria wants to build infrastructure, Nigeria must import all the capital goods. And Nigeria does not have the hard currency. Therefore, the structural constraint that the economy has always faced is a lack of what we call engineering infrastructure. A foundational engineering infrastructure that will enable the country to use machinery and equipment internally using the natural resources of Nigeria. You know, Nigeria is very rich in metallic raw materials. And so Nigeria has not been able to leverage adding value to those raw materials and using them to build machinery and equipment here. That will enable Nigeria to stop importing capital and so that Nigeria will have the capacity to build refineries in limitless numbers, build infrastructure, build secondary, all kinds of industries that will completely diversify the economy and mechanize agriculture.
Well, talking about engineering infrastructure. Let me come in here now. Talking about engineering infrastructure, really, that speaks to technology and maybe STEM and all that. How can we deepen that sector in Nigeria? Because you've said something now about how that, to a very large extent, some of those things are imported into the country, which further puts pressure on Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings. So how can we deepen that sector so that we can, shore up that area of shortfall?
Okay, as a matter of fact, all capital goods mean machinery and equipment that you use in building factories or industries in Nigeria, that you use in constructing roads, that you use in driving all activities in Nigeria. They are actually all imported, and it's having a lot of pressure on the hard currency position in Nigeria. So now, this is against the background that Nigeria has abundance of those natural resources beneath the soil of Nigeria that can be mined and then converted through the metallurgical industry, and also using local labor. Local labor will come through technically capable personnel. And you can't select technically capable personnel if your educational system is geared towards, is centered around the science, technical, engineering, and mathematics education that will generate the technical manpower to drive the production of those capital goods locally. Okay? So if Nigeria is able to do that, Nigeria would therefore not require any hard currency. So Nigeria started the efforts in developing the iron and steel industry, which is the bedrock of industrialization and technical breakthrough in the past under the government of General Bonga. But that effort was truncated along the line. So that now Nigeria's meteorological industry does not exist. So Nigeria has to go back to that framework of first of all developing the meteorological industry, which will then give rise to the machines making and tools making industry that will enable Nigeria manufacture locally the machines and the equipment that Nigeria will require to build electric power plants, build refineries, build industries, heavy and light industries that will then enable Nigeria to be increasingly dependent on its own resources to develop. That will make Nigeria not to be dependent on importation, which puts pressure on hard currency that Nigeria does not have capacity to obtain now. So that's precisely what Nigeria has to do. We must go back to the root of the first industrial revolution.
All right. So very quickly. Okay. Very quickly, before we go into further into solutions, I just want to put this to you. Do you think Nigeria's debt issue is a result of profligate spending, or it was just a matter of time?
Yes, a lot of things actually cause the country to adopt financing through borrowing. And one of them is the low level of revenue. I said the other time at 3.3% of revenue to GDP, the Nigerian revenue is so insignificant or peculiar to impact the economic development of the country and also take care of the public administration. And so, very low revenue is part of the problem. But that low revenue itself, the expenditure is not maximized, it's not optimized. There are lots of leakages and there are profligate spending, just like you mentioned. And so we need to be very, very deliberate in ensuring that our expenditures are optimized so that they are geared towards activities that will generate more revenue for the country. Okay, that will be more meaningful for the development of the economy. So profligacy is part of the challenges that the economy faces.
All right. Well, there are two broad solutions moving forward. First, Nigeria must proactively take steps to forestall further borrowings. And the second one is that it must find a way to pay up its debt. Now, let's start with the first solution. Do you think the first solution is too ambitious? Or is it something that is achievable? And, let's start from there.
Okay. Now, I believe that there are two ways in which Nigeria can approach these debt crisis. First, by taking preventive measures, and then the second is extinguishing the existing liabilities. Now, prevention is better than cure. So, let us start that if the budget is balanced, of course, we would have prevented any reason for running a deficit. Borrowing. But although balancing a budget is not absolute, it is qualified because an economy can actually borrow or run a deficit budget when there is recession. And then when there is hyperinflation, the situation is reversed and the economy is supposed to run a surplus budget. But in Nigeria, even when we have a normal fiscal condition, the federal government is still borrowing, which is strange and abnormal. Of that excess, it is important first and foremost to prevent the build-up of deficit. Like the Nigerian government, through the legislature, should legislate to have at federal level the borrowing limit for the federal government. And at the state level, the state legislature should also come up with a borrowing limit that will put a ceiling, a cap on the borrowing. In fact, let me give you an example. In America, several states in America, through legislation, prohibit deficit budgeting, which is the cost of borrowing. And so the budget in many states in America must be balanced. And any government official that contravenes that will be severely dealt with. And so here in Nigeria, therefore, it is important for the National Assembly to come up with a legislation and not rely on the DMO sustainability level of 40% sustainability level. Legislation must be passed, even when there is a recession. But generally, the federal government should pursue a balanced budget. Because when there is a balanced budget, there will be no need for deficit and there will be no need for borrowing.
All right, let me come in here. When you say the federal government should pursue a balanced budget, won't that also put us in a situation where we're having issues like infrastructure deficit? I'm just thinking, because if we look at the budget, you know that some of those things are actually projects. Or maybe you are then talking about we need to be maybe more, we should look more carefully when we are, coming up or appropriating this thing, so that we're sure that the things that are in the budget are things that are actually needed. And then if we look at Nigeria's current revenue, that's a paltry sum compared to some of the projects and all that. How are we going to make that work, really, if we're trying to just, from the blues pursue a balanced budget?
Okay, this is an interesting question you have asked, that there is need to continue to run deficit budget.
I haven't said there is a need to run it. I am saying, are we there yet? Okay, I'm not saying that we need to continue running a deficit budget. I'm just saying, are we there yet? Are we in that place? Looking at our revenue generation, are we in that place where we can begin to confidently run a balanced budget? That's the question. Won't it? I'm just asking to know if it's really possible for Nigeria to do that now. I mean, if it's possible, why not?
Okay, there are principles that drive economic activities really. And when you have a normal situation of economic activity in a country, when an economy is either in recession or experiencing hyperinflation, you have what we call a neutral fiscal policy. And that neutral fiscal policy is characterized by balanced budget, in which case, you bite as much as you can chew. So you run a balanced budget and use the revenue available to develop your infrastructure and so on and so forth. But because the federal government is assuming a lot of responsibility, its revenue becomes significant for it to drive economic growth around its administration. So what the federal government ought to do, therefore, is to devote a lot of power to the state, so that the state can take the process away from the federal government, and also allow the private sector to be the engine room for the development of the economy. In which case, the federal government can sustainably maintain a balanced budget. Okay? But there is, under economic principles, you want to have a deficit budget and borrow to finance it when an economy is in recession. And so you need to stimulate the economy so as to increase aggregate demand and output. And then when an economy takes over for hyperinflation.
Okay, we'd like to wind down in a moment. Let's have your final thought. So let's have your final thought. We're pressed for time.
Okay, so the final thought is that we have already focused on the build-up of budget deficit and going into debt crisis. We'll now talk about how to now end this measures. The government needs to come up with a concrete plan to start repaying or restructuring this debt in such a manner that at least every year 20% of the debt must be extinguished, so that within 5 years Nigeria will normalize its fiscal state and achieve vision. Another thing for consolidate revenue, of course, something will discuss that in future.
All right, there's a lot more to say, but we just have to end it here. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, David Adori.
Okay, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
All right, okay. I've been speaking with David Adori, the Vice Chairman, High Cap Securities. Well, the World Bank has said that the growth momentum in the non-oil sector is likely to be restrained by continued weakness in the oil sector, while existing production and security challenges and a moderation in oil prices are expected to hinder a recovery in oil output. That's a focus, and we'll come back from this break. Stay with us.